Hello, I'm joined with Darshak Patel here at BMJ. Welcome, Darshak.
Thank you for having me.
Darshak's just completed the foundation program back in August and is currently pursuing a master's in ophthalmology. And we've been looking at this week at a BMJ careers story and also a doc2doc post about the modernising medical careers, MCC, MTAS, which was the reorganisation of postgraduate medical training in the UK. And critics have been saying that this has made it difficult for doctors to switch specialties and try new things. This is probably not a new argument, but is this a general concern for junior doctors, and how do you see it?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that my experience is based on graduating after the modernising medical careers was introduced. So I have personal experience of that. Prior to that, my experience is from talking to other sort of trainees and consultants. But from the post-MC era, I do think that there's an increasing sort of drive to decide on your career earlier. Whereas before, previously, for example, you'd rotate through different SHO rotations before deciding on something. There is sort of an impetus now during the foundation program to decide exactly what you want to do. And actually, only 18 months after finishing medical school, we're already making applications for specialty training, and that's definitely different. I think medicine and surgery, it's slightly better because there is a delay, sort of. You have sort of 2 years of core training, and then you have to make an application. So you still have some flexibility regarding that. But certainly, I think in the other specialties, there is a drive to make a decision a lot earlier than previously.
And did that structure sort of heavily influence your sort of future career path?
Yeah, it does, because a lot of medical students don't really know what they want to do, and there isn't a lot of. There may be career resources at university, but it's not something that we're sort of made aware of, for example.
And do you think junior doctors get adequate careers advice?
It's probably variable. I would say that. I mean, I had some good advice, for example, from my education supervisor. The London Deanery does have a good careers unit, from what I understand, and they do sort of one-to-one sessions. But you kind of have to be, I think at the same time, you have to take a bit of ownership as well. You have to be proactive about it. In retrospect, for me, for example, I probably procrastinated about it too much, of making a decision as to what I wanted to do. But if you sort of start making a decision towards the end of medical school, early in the foundation program, and by that, speaking to trainees, consultants, doing taster weeks, considering taking a year out, for example, and working in a non-training post, and accessing all these resources that are available on the internet. And then if you do that, you're able to come to a decision sooner. And ultimately, you're going to be happy in what you do, because it is a big decision at the end of the day. It's what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life.
And you sort of mentioned there sort of work experience. This week you joined us at the BMJ, looking at how we sort of publish and select articles, etc. What sort of made you want to come here and sort of see how medical publishing happens?
Well, I have two interests, really. There's two aspects of the BMJ I wanted to see, and that was the first aspect was the medical journalism side of it, and the second side was the academic writing side. Particularly because I'm interested in pursuing a career in ophthalmology, and academic writing and publishing is going to be a very big part of that. From the medical journalism side, it's very sort of fast moving, and I think anybody who works in it needs to be fairly adaptable. That's the first thing I've realised, and also working through the doc2doc forum and BMJ in general, I think I've realised now that to sort of engage doctors of different grades, you need to have multiple methods and use multiple mediums. And I definitely think social media is, particularly in the future, as we see children who are born with social media around them all the time, coming into medical school and becoming doctors, I think that's going to be a very big and important way of engaging junior doctors. From the academic side of it, the sort of peer review meeting, or the hanging committee meeting as they used to call it, was very interesting. And I realise now that there's a lot of difficulties on both sides in trying to, in the peer review and publication process. It is subjective to some extent, but at the same time, there's a lot of support given to the author to try and alter the papers and try and come to try and give them as much support as possible to try and make sure that they're able to publish it.
And so, from attending that meeting and sort of seeing how the peer review process works a bit more, are there any sort of tips or things that you sort of picked up that you would like to sort of feed into your own kind of research and how you write up research in the future?
Well, I actually went into it. I'm quite methodical myself. I went into it trying to with the intention of coming out with a formula as to exactly what needs to be put into a paper to make it get published in something like the BMJ. But I don't think I think the bottom line is there is no generic formula. At the end of the day, it's a high impact journal, and it's a rigorous academic process. And if you want to get something published in the BMJ, everything needs to be considered from the outset, really. Making changes along the way is all well and good, but I think because they have a dedicated peer review panel, they pick up on very, very subtle things. And if these are things that can be altered, for example, statistical analysis, which can be altered after the study's been done, then that's fine. But a lot of the time, it's methodological flaws which can't actually be changed, and then the paper has to be rejected.
So there's quite a lot of emphasis on getting published, particularly as a sort of younger doctor and actually going on in your career, but would you like to have seen more of advice at medical school and as you were sort of doing your training in how to get published, a bit more sort of proactive kind of practical sort of tips?
Definitely. I mean, publishing is very, the extent to which you sort of encourage to publish is variable depending on what you want to do. And the primary purpose of any publication is to try and disseminate knowledge. It shouldn't be obviously for career progression, but it is an unfortunate natural consequence of pursuing a competitive specialty that you do have there is some emphasis on publishing. And yeah, I do think that isn't something that's taught at an undergraduate level, academic writing. And you do find, particularly when I went to the meeting yesterday, that there are senior doctors who don't have, sometimes don't have very good medical writing skills.
Well, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much.